The scent of vanilla and something else, something sharper and citrusy, filled the hallway as Elle walked in. It wasn't her usual perfume, the one I'd bought her for our anniversary. This was new, exotic, and it clung to her like a second skin. It was 1:17 a.m. according to the kitchen clock. I'd been up for hours, the muted glow of the television a poor substitute for sleep. She breezed past me, a vision of rosy cheeks and sparkling eyes, her laughter bubbling like champagne. "Oh, honey, it was such a blast," she exclaimed, already heading for the bedroom. Not even glancing my way, she didn't mention that she wasn't answering my texts from earlier in the evening. "The girls and I went to that new place downtown, the Velvet Room. You should see it. It's like stepping into another world." I watched her go, the knot in my stomach tightening. Girls' night out, that's what she called it anyway. Lately, girls' night out had become a near-weekly occurrence, each one leaving her more radiant, more distant. I tried talking to her about it, but she dismissed my concerns with a wave of her hand. A soft, "Don't be silly, honey. You're just being paranoid." I was never the jealous type, but it was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore the mounting evidence that something was off. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm brewing inside me. I hadn't planned on this, but I had a feeling tonight would be different. It had to be. The previous weekend, a nagging feeling had led me down a path I never imagined I'd take. I'd found a way to access her phone records, a pit in my stomach growing with each number I didn't recognize. One in particular stood out, an almost daily call and text recipient. It was listed under a generic first name, Alex. I'd done some digging. A reverse phone lookup led me to a profile on a social media platform with a photo of a handsome man with dark hair and a roguish smile. Alex had posted that he was a bartender at the Velvet Room, the same bar my wife had just gushed about. My heart pounded against my ribs as I went into our office and found the envelope I had been waiting for. I reached in and pulled out the printout, a receipt from the Velvet Room, dated just an hour earlier. I hadn't asked for it, just requested a copy after explaining I was looking for it. I paid a small fortune for that little piece of paper, but I was sure it would be worth it. I walked into our bedroom. She was humming softly, pulling a nightgown over her head, the scent of that citrusy perfume hitting me again. She turned to me, a smile on her face. It was the kind of smile that used to melt my heart. Now it just twisted the knife in my gut. "What's up, honey? You look like you've seen a ghost." I held out the receipt to her. It was the one I had painstakingly waited for, the one that would finally tell me the truth of what was going on. "Just a little something from your girls' night out," I said, my voice surprisingly even. She took the receipt, her smile faltering as she scanned the numbers. I watched as the color drained from her face, her eyes widening in horror. The bill wasn't large, only $87. Not enough to shock most people, but the items she ordered were enough to turn her world upside down. She stuttered, her voice thin. What is this? This must be a mistake." "Is it?" I asked, the quiet in my voice now sharp like splintered glass. I pointed to the first line item. 2 kettle, 1 martinis. I continued down the list. Another 4 Manhattans, followed by 2 old fashions, 2 sidecars, and 2 French 75s. I didn't need to ask how it was possible for one person to drink so many alcoholic beverages in one evening. It was obvious. "You didn't have a girls' night out, did you, Elle?" The words hung in the air, heavy and accusatory. She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it again, her eyes darting around the room like a trapped animal. I can explain," she finally stammered, her voice shaking. I crossed my arms. "I'm all ears." She looked like she was trying to come up with an excuse, but there was nothing she could possibly say that would explain away the truth I knew. She blurted out something about how she was just having fun. She said she would never hurt me, but the tears welling in her eyes didn't do much to soften my heart. "You're lying, Elle," I said, my voice flat, devoid of any emotion. "You lied to me. All this time you've been lying. The late nights, the new perfume, the endless girls' nights out. It was all a lie." Her lower lip trembled. "It wasn't like that. I just needed a little fun." "Fun?" I laughed. A harsh, bitter sound. Fun? You call sneaking around with some bartender fun? The tears finally spilled over, streaking her makeup. She looked like a child caught with her hand in the cookie jar. She tried to reach for me, her hand outstretched, but I stepped back, disgusted by her touch. I pointed at the receipt, my finger trembling. This is not girls' night out fun. This is called cheating. You were with him, weren't you? Alex, from the bar. She didn't answer, her silence more damning than any confession. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. I didn't shout. I didn't scream. I just spoke the words that had been building in my chest for weeks. I'm done, Elle. I'm done with the lies. I'm done with the deceit. I want you out. I want you gone. Her eyes widened. What? No, you don't mean that, she shrieked, her voice laced with panic. She was trying to touch me, but I stepped away from her like she was the plague. She reached for my hand again. This time, I swatted her hand away and turned around, walking into the other room. I'd already contacted a lawyer, already done the groundwork. I walked into the office and grabbed the already prepared separation papers. I turned and walked back into the bedroom. I held them out to her. These are for you. They're all in order. Sign them. She stared at the papers as if they were a venomous snake. She tried to say something, but I just pointed to the papers again. The tears were streaming down her face now. I don't understand. How could you do this? She stammered. I'm done, Elle. You made your choices. I made mine. Sign the papers. She went on and on about how she was sorry, about how we could work through this. I had expected this. All I could do was stand there. I wasn't feeling any more anger, but I wasn't feeling any sorrow. All I felt was indifference. Finally, she took the pen, her hand shaking as she signed the papers. She threw the pen on the nightstand and looked at me with a mixture of shock and betrayal. She gathered her things. I wasn't going to touch her. I wasn't going to say anything. I just turned around and walked to the living room. I sat on the sofa, my gaze fixed on nothing. I heard her footsteps behind me as she walked out the front door. I listened to her car start and drive off. I closed my eyes. I felt nothing, just empty space where my heart once was. I'd loved her with all my heart, but she had chosen to throw it all away. I was no longer attached to her. I'd known deep down that our marriage was on shaky ground. Her lies had slowly eroded the trust one had in her, leaving nothing but a hollow shell of what we once were. But I hadn't expected things to end like this. I hadn't planned on this, but I had no regrets. I was free from her lies and deceit, and in a strange way, I had a sense of peace. I would start again and I would do better. I owed that to myself.